the twin suns of Kepler-4 to be cast long shadows across the peaceful city of New Vega, as Administrator Hyen-Woo stood at his office window. The crystal towers sparkled in the afternoon light, and children played in the floating gardens that drifted between the buildings. It was a perfect day on a perfect world, home to 2 million Altarians who had never known war. Then the sky began to darken. At first, Hyen-Woo thought it was a solar eclipse, but the darkness kept growing, spreading across the heavens like spilled ink. His assistant Ji-won burst through the door, her face pale with terror. "Sir, you need to see this," she gasped. Activating the wall display, the screen filled with an image that made Hyen-Woo's blood turn to ice. Ships. Hundreds of them. Each one was massive, dark, and covered in weapons that gleamed like the teeth of some cosmic predator. They filled the space above the planet, blotting out the stars. "How many?" Hyen-Woo whispered. 215 confirmed, Gi-won replied, her voice shaking. "They're hegemony warships, the big ones." Hyen-Woo closed his eyes. Every civilized species in the galaxy knew about the hegemony. They were conquerors who swept through space, taking what they wanted and destroying what they didn't. No one had ever successfully fought them off. No one had ever even tried. The communication system crackled to life. A harsh voice filled the room, speaking in the cold, mechanical tone of the hegemony empire. "Primitive inhabitants of this world, you have been selected for absorption into the hegemony. Resistance is futile. Evacuation is forbidden. Prepare for orbital cleansing to begin in 1 hour." The transmission ended, leaving only silence. Hyen-Woo stared at the screen, his mind racing. Orbital cleansing meant they were going to burn the cities from space, killing everyone on the planet.
Altarians
Were peaceful people, had no military, no weapons capable of fighting starships. Their entire defense force consisted of 12 small patrol boats designed for asteroid mining. "Sir, what do we do?" Gi-won asked. Before Hyen-Woo could answer, the first bombardment began. Brilliant flashes of light erupted on the northern continent, and the ground shook beneath their feet. Through the window, they could see mushroom clouds, rising in the distance where the mining colonies had been. "Get me the evacuation council," Hyen-Woo ordered, trying to keep his voice steady. Within minutes, the senior administrators appeared on the communication screen. Their faces were masks of barely controlled panic. "How many can we evacuate?" Hyen-Woo asked. "Maybe 10,000 if we use every transport we have," replied Administrator Young-soo from the spaceport. "But that's less than 1% of our population." Another bombardment lit up the horizon. The hegemony was taking their time, destroying the planet piece by piece. They wanted the Altarians to suffer, to know that death was coming slowly. Hyun walked to his personal communication terminal. If they were going to die, maybe someone in the vast universe would remember they had lived. Maybe someone would know that a peaceful people had tried their best to be good. Neighbors to the stars. His fingers trembled as he activated the emergency beacon. This was their most powerful transmitter, capable of sending signals across hundreds of light years. It was designed for contacting rescue ships, but there would be no rescue today. "This is Colony Administrator Hyen-Woo of New Vega Colony. Kepler-4 system," he spoke into the transmitter. "We are under attack by the hegemony empire. Our people are peaceful. We have never harmed anyone. We have no weapons capable of defending ourselves." The building shook as another bombardment struck closer to the city. Through the window, Hugh could see people running in the streets, families trying to reach the underground shelters. "We are 2 million souls who chose to live in harmony with the universe," he continued. "We studied the stars, grew food, created art, and raised our children to be kind. If anyone receives this message, we ask not for rescue, but for memory. Please remember that we existed. Please remember that we tried to live with honor." He included their coordinates, their history, and everything that made the Altarians who they were. The signal pulsed out into space, carrying the final testimony of a dying civilization. G-1 stood beside him as they watched their world burn. The crystal towers were melting under the orbital bombardment, and the floating gardens had crashed to the ground in twisted heaps of metal and dying plants. "Do you think anyone will hear it?" she asked quietly. "I don't know," Haiyan Wu replied, "but we had to try." What neither of them knew was that their desperate message was already racing through the void, traveling faster than light toward the edge of known space. It would pass through 17 different star systems, each one ignoring the plea from a species they had never heard of. But at the very edge of the galaxy, in a system marked with warning beacons in every known language, something was listening. Something that had been waiting in the dark for 300 years. Keeping watch over a small blue planet that the rest of the galaxy preferred to forget, the message reached the listeners. Just as the last of New Vega's towers fell to the bombardment, and for the first time in centuries, the children of Earth stirred from their enforced slumber. Admiral Minho was drinking his morning coffee when the universe changed forever. He sat in his command chair aboard the orbital station Sentinel, watching Earth turn slowly below. The blue and white marble looked peaceful from this distance, but Minho knew better. Down there, hurricanes could flatten entire cities. Earthquakes could swallow mountains, and simple bacteria could kill millions. Earth had spent billions of years trying to kill everything that lived on it, and somehow humans had survived. That was why the rest of the galaxy left them alone. Earth was marked as a death world, and humans were considered too dangerous for normal contact. The galactic civilizations had built a wall of warning beacons around the solar system and pretended humans didn't exist. Minho liked it that way. Peace was nice after centuries of fighting just to stay alive. Lieutenant So Young looked up from her console, her face confused. "Admiral, we're getting a strange signal. It's coming from outside the quarantine zone." "What kind of signal?" Minho asked, setting down his coffee. "Emergency broadcast. Someone's asking for help." So Young's fingers danced over her controls. It's really sad, sir." The message played through the command center. Minho listened to the alien voice speaking broken galactic standard, describing a peaceful world under attack. The translation. Computers filled in the gaps, showing him what was happening on Kepler-44b. 2 million innocent people were being slaughtered for no reason except that someone stronger had decided they should die. Minho felt something cold settle in his stomach. It wasn't fear. Humans had been scared out of them long ago by tigers and ice ages and asteroid impacts. This was anger, pure focused rage at bullies who picked on the weak. "Commander Dong Haiyan, give me a tactical analysis," he ordered. Officers' hands flew over his instruments. Long-range sensors show a massive fleet at those coordinates. Over 200 ships, all military grade. They're conducting orbital bombardment against a planet with no significant defenses. What kind of defenses do the locals have? Practically none, sir. Maybe a dozen patrol boats designed for mining work, against a hegemony battle fleet. Dong Haiyan shook his head. It's not even a fight. It's just murder. Minho stood up and walked to the main display. The tactical readout showed the distant battle, computer projections painting a picture of complete annihilation. The attackers weren't even trying to capture anything. They were just destroying everything they could find. Sir So Young said quietly, "The message says they don't expect rescue. They just want someone to remember they existed." That made it worse somehow. These people weren't even asking to be saved. They had given up hope and just wanted their deaths to mean something. Min-Ho thought about Earth's history. Humans had never had the luxury of giving up. When the ice came, they learned to make fire. When predators hunted them, they made weapons. When diseases tried to kill them, they made medicine. Earth had tried to destroy humanity for millions of years, and they had fought back every single time. But these aliens had never learned to fight. They were like sheep being eaten by wolves. "Admiral, we have regulations about contact with galactic civilizations," Donghan said carefully. "Earth is supposed to stay quarantined. Those regulations were made to protect them from us," Minho replied. "Not to protect bullies from justice." He walked to the communication console and opened a channel too. Fleet Command on Luna Base. Admiral Taiwan's weathered face appeared on the screen. "Minho, what's the emergency?" "We have a situation. I'm sending you the data now." Minho transmitted the alien distress call and the tactical analysis.
Yes.
Request permission to deploy the Fifth Fleet. Taewon was quiet for a long moment as he reviewed the information. This is outside our territory. These aren't our people. They're innocent people being murdered by bullies with big ships, Minho said. That makes it our business. Do you know what this means? If we intervene, the whole galaxy will know we're here. The quarantine will be broken. Everything changes. Minho looked out at Earth, spinning peacefully in the void. Oh, down there. Children were going to school, farmers were growing food, and scientists were trying to understand the universe. All of them safe because their ancestors had been too stubborn to die when the world wanted them to. Maybe it's time for things to change, he said. Maybe the galaxy needs to remember that some people don't give up when bullies come calling. Taewon was quiet for another moment. Then he smiled, and Minho saw the same cold anger in his eyes that burned in every human who had ever faced impossible. Odds. Permission granted. Deploy the entire Fifth Fleet. Show them what Deathworlders do when innocent people call for help. The connection ended, and Minho turned to his staff. They were all watching him with the same expression. They knew what this meant. Humanity was about to step onto the galactic stage, and they would do it with weapons in their hands. Commander. Dong Haeon. How long to mobilize the fleet? 72 hours for full deployment, sir. Then we better get started. Send word to all ships. We're going to war. For the first time in 300 years, Earth's children were going hunting. And somewhere across the galaxy, innocent people were about to learn that when Deathworlders answer your call for help, they don't come alone. Captain Jae-sung had never seen so many human warships in one place. From the bridge of the dreadnought Relentless, he watched as 47 vessels formed up in the shadow of Mars. Each ship was a monument to humanity's violent past. Built by people who had learned to fight on a world that never stopped trying. To kill them, the battlecruiser Unconquerable took position off his starboard side, its hull bristling with weapons that could crack planets. Beyond that, the heavy destroyer No Quarter moved into formation, followed by the missile cruiser Defiant, and the assault carrier Unbroken. Every ship bore a name that spoke of humanity's refusal to surrender, words earned in blood on a death world that had forged them all. First time seeing the full fleet? Asked Commander Yoon-ji as she joined him at the observation window. Imagined we'd need this much firepower for a rescue mission. Jae-sung replied, though he knew it wasn't really a rescue anymore. The latest reports from their scout drones painted a grim picture. The peaceful aliens were dying faster than anyone could save them. Lieutenant Sungmin looked up from his communication station. Sir, we have updated casualty reports from the advanced reconnaissance. Enemy bombardment has intensified. Estimated civilian deaths now exceed 600,000. Jae-sung felt his jaw tighten. 600,000 dead in less than 2 days. Men, women, children who had never hurt anyone. Vaporized by weapons fired from orbit because someone had decided their world looked valuable. On Earth, that kind of slaughter would have been called genocide. In space, it was just Tuesday for the Hegemony Empire. What's the tactical situation? Yoon-jae asked. Bad, Sungmin admitted. The enemy has complete orbital control. They're taking their time, destroying infrastructure piece by piece. Not military strategy, they're enjoying it. They soon walked to the tactical display that showed the enemy fleet arrangement. 215 ships spread across Kepler-4 for 2B's orbit like a net. They were big ships, too, the kind built to intimidate entire star systems into surrender. Each one carried enough firepower to level a continent. Sir, incoming transmission from Admiral Minho, announced the communications officer. The Admiral's face appeared on the main screen, his expression carved from stone. Behind him, the bridge of his flagship Indomitable hummed with activity as the crew prepared for battle. All ships, this is Admiral Minho. We jump to hyperspace in 15 minutes. I want everyone to understand what we're doing here. He paused, his eyes seeming to look directly at each person watching. 3 days ago, a peaceful species sent out a cry for help. They didn't ask us to save them. They just asked someone to remember they had existed. The admiral's voice grew harder. The Hegemony Empire decided these people should die for the crime of living on a world they wanted. Over 500,000 civilians are already dead, and more are dying every minute we delay. Jae-sung looked around his bridge. His crew was young by human standards, most born after the quarantine had been established. Now they had grown up in peace, protected by the sacrifice of previous generations who had fought Earth's endless disasters. But looking at their faces now, he saw the same cold fury that had carried humanity through ice ages and asteroid impacts. "We are the children of a death world," the admiral continued. "Our planet spent 4 billion years trying to perfect the art of killing, and we survived it all. We learned to fight not because we were evil, but because everything that couldn't fight was already extinct." The tactical display updated with new information from the scout drones. The aliens had retreated to underground shelters, but the hegemony was using bunker buster weapons to dig them out. Entire families were being murdered in the holes they had dug to hide. "Remember why we're here?" Admiral Minho said. "We're not going to negotiate. We're not going to warn them again. Right? We're not going to accept surrender until every civilian is safe and every hegemony ship is either running or dead." Lieutenant Sungmin's console chimed with an urgent alert. "Captain, priority message from the colony. They're thanking us for coming." The message played over the ship's internal speakers was the same alien voice from the original distress call, but weaker now, more desperate. "Unknown ships from Earth, this is Administrator Hyen Woo. We know you're coming. Our children are singing songs about the brave humans who came from so far away. Even if we don't survive, we will remember your kindness." The bridge fell completely silent. Jae-soon felt something break inside his chest, the same feeling his ancestors must have had when they stood against the ice or face down. Predators 10 times their size. These aliens were going to die, believing that humans were heroes, and that meant humanity could not let them down. "All ships report ready for hyperspace jump," announced the fleet communications officer. Admiral Minho nodded. "Very well. All ships, jump on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark." The stars stretched into lines as 47 human warships entered hyperspace, carrying with them the fury of a species that had never learned how to quit. Behind them, Earth continued its ancient dance around the sun, unaware that its children were about to remind the galaxy why humans were kept in quarantine. In the depths of space, the final scout reports were arriving. The hegemony had begun. Using chemical weapons, time was running out. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442, a system like ghosts materializing from a nightmare. 47 ships appeared in perfect formation, their dark hulls seeming to absorb the light from the distant star. They moved with the coordinated precision of a wolf pack, each vessel taking its assigned position without a wasted motion. On the bridge of the hegemony flagship, Eternal Dominion, War Marshal Krelthik was enjoying his morning meal when his tactical officer interrupted with news that would change everything. "War Marshal, we have unknown contacts at the system's edge. 47 ships, military configuration." Set down his drink and walked to the main display. "Reinforcements for the locals? Impossible. These primitives have no allies. Sir, these aren't local ships. The energy signatures are ... unusual, and their weapon configurations don't match any known design in our databases." Admiral Minho sat in the command chair of his flagship Indomitable, watching the tactical display with the patience of a hunter who had waited millions of years for this moment. The hegemony fleet spread across the planet's orbit like a disease, their ships dark against the stars. Below them, the world burned. "Admiral, we're detecting massive civilian casualties on the surface," reported Lieutenant Yujin from the communications. "Station, the enemy is using chemical weapons on the refugee centers." Minho's hands tightened on his chair's armrests. Chemical weapons against civilians. These weren't soldiers fighting a war. They were monsters amusing themselves with slaughter. Sir, we're receiving hails from multiple sources. The colony is trying to contact us, and the enemy fleet is demanding identification. "Open a channel to both," Minho ordered, his voice carrying the calm that came before the storm. The communication opened, and for the first time in galactic history, humanity spoke directly to the stars as warriors rather than curiosities locked. Away in quarantine? This is Admiral Minho of the Terran Defense Force. Altarian Colony, we received your distress call. Help has arrived. On the planet's surface, Administrator Hyanwu stared at his communication screen in disbelief. He was in an underground bunker that shook constantly from the bombardment above. Half his staff was dead, and the rest were barely holding together. The air tasted of smoke and fear. Unknown vessels, this is Colony Administrator Hyanwu. You actually came. We thought everyone had abandoned us. No one gets abandoned. On our watch, Minho replied simply. Then his voice grew cold as winter on Earth. Hegemony vessels, this is your only warning. Cease all hostile actions against the civilian population and withdraw from this system immediately. War Marshal Krelthic's laughter echoed across the communication channel. Unknown species, you are either very brave or very stupid, you face. The might of the Hegemony Empire? 215 warships stand ready to defend our claim to this system? Correction, Minho said calmly. Face 47 ships crewed by humans. We are from a world that spent 4 billion years trying to kill us, and we're still here. You have 30 seconds to begin withdrawal. Krelthak studied his tactical display more carefully. The unknown ships were smaller than his dreadnoughts, but their power readings were impossible. Each vessel generated more energy than should have been possible for their size, and their weapons. Sir, his tactical officer whispered, their weapon systems are reading as planet killers. Multiple planet killers per ship. Possible, Krelthic snarled. No species would build ships with that much firepower. It would be insane. Down on the burning planet, Administrator Hyanwu listened to the exchange with growing hope. Terran. Ships, what is your species like? Why did you come so far to help strangers? Minho was quiet for a moment. We're survivors, Administrator. Our world tried to kill us with ice ages, asteroid impacts, supervolcanoes, and plagues. We learned that. When someone calls for help, you answer, because someday you might be the one calling. 15 seconds, Minho announced the Hegemony fleet. War-Marshal Krelthic's sensors finally finished their deep analysis of the human ships. What they found made his blood freeze. These weren't normal warships. They were floating fortresses. Designed by a species that understood violence at a fundamental level, every line of their hulls spoke of battles fought and won against impossible odds. War Marshal, his tactical officer, said quietly, recommend immediate withdrawal. These ships are built like nothing we've ever seen. Nonsense, Krelthic snapped. Though his voice was less confident than before, they're outnumbered 5-1. We are the Hegemony Empire. Do not retreat from primitives. Time's up, Admiral Minho announced. His voice carried no anger, no hatred, just the cold certainty of a predator that had decided to kill. All human ships, weapons free. Show them what happens when Deathworlders lose their patience. The communication channel went silent. In the underground bunker, Administrator Hyanwu held his breath. In the Hegemony flagship, War Marshal Krelthak realized he had just made the biggest mistake of his very short remaining life. Space held its breath for one perfect moment. Then the children of Earth went to war, and the galaxy learned why some species were meant to be left alone in the dark. The Battle of Kepler 44 to be was about to begin, and nothing would ever be the same. The Battle of Kepler 442 began with silence. For 3 heartbeats, the two fleets faced each other across the void like ancient predators sizing up their prey. Then Admiral Minho spoke one word into his communications system. Execute. Happen next would be remembered across the galaxy for 1,000 years. The human fleet moved like a single living creature, each ship perfectly coordinated with the others. The battlecruiser Unconquerable dove straight into the center of the Hegemony formation, its massive guns opening fire with a sound like thunder in the vacuum of space. Plasma beams that could melt mountains carved through enemy shields as if they were made of paper. Captain Jaezung watched from the bridge of the Relentless as his ship's weapon systems came online. "Target the command vessels first," he ordered. "Cut the head off the snake." War Marshal Krelthek screamed orders at his fleet, but the humans were already inside their formation. The destroyer No Quarter danced between capital ships 3 times its size, its point defense systems turning incoming missiles into brilliant fireworks. Every human ship moved with a precision that spoke of countless battles fought against impossible odds. How are they doing this? Krelthek's tactical officer gasped as another hegemony dreadnought exploded in a ball of nuclear fire. Their ships are too small to carry this much firepower. The answer was simple, though the hegemony would never understand it. Humans had learned to build weapons on a world where everything was trying to kill them. They had been making tools of war since they learned to chip rocks into blades. Every human ship carried the accumulated knowledge of a species that had fought for survival since they crawled out of the ocean. The heavy cruiser Defiant rolled past a hegemony battleship, its hull scarred by enemy fire but still fighting. Captain Young Ho smiled as his weapons officer reported multiple hits on the enemy's reactor core. "That's what you get for picking on farmers," he muttered, down on the planet's surface. Administrator Hyan Wu watched the battle through his bunker's periscope. The sky was full of explosions and streaking lights as the human fleet tore through their attackers. Gemini's ships that had seemed invincible just hours ago were now burning wrecks falling toward the planet. "Well, sir, the humans are winning," his AG-1 whispered in amazement. "They're actually winning." Admiral Minho's flagship Indomitable targeted the enemy command ship directly. "All batteries, focus fire on the flagship. Let's end this quickly." The combined firepower of 6 human ships struck the Eternal Dominion at the same moment. The massive vessel's shields collapsed instantly, and its hull began to buckle under the assault. War Marshal Krelthek had just enough time to realize that he had picked a fight with the wrong species before his ship became another expanding cloud of debris. The battle turned into a rout. Hegemony ships that had confidently entered the system now fled in panic, their crews broadcasting surrender signals on every frequency they could find. But the humans weren't accepting surrender. Not yet. Not while. Civilians were still dying on the planet below, Captain. Young Ji, aboard the assault carrier Unbroken, launched her fighters to hunt down the fleeing enemy ships. "No mercy for child killers," she announced to her pilots. "Make sure they remember." This day, the small human fighters swarmed over the retreating hegemony fleet like angry wasps. They were faster, more maneuverable, and piloted by people who had learned to fly in the asteroid fields around Earth. One by one, the enemy ships were picked off as they tried to reach the edge of the system. In less than 6 hours, it was over. 215 hegemony warships had been reduced to 37, fleeing survivors in a field of wreckage that would orbit Kepler-4 for centuries. The humans had lost nothing. Not a single ship, not a single crew member. Admiral Minho opened a channel to the planet below. "Administrator Hyan Wu, this is Admiral Minho. The immediate threat has been neutralized. We're sending down medical teams and relief supplies." On the surface, Hyan Wu was crying. Round him, his surviving staff stared at their instruments in disbelief. The orbital bombardment had stopped. The chemical attacks had ended. For the first time in 3 days, their world was quiet. "Admiral, why did you do this? Your people had nothing to gain from helping us." Minho looked out at the debris field that had once been the hegemony fleet. "Our world taught us that the strong protect the weak. When someone calls for help, you answer. That's what makes us human." Human medical teams were already landing on the planet, setting up field hospitals and evacuation centers. Commander Haijin knelt beside an injured Altarian child, her med kit automatically adjusting its treatments for the alien physiology. "You're safe now," she said gently, not knowing if the child could understand her words, but hoping her tone would carry the meaning. Within hours, news of the battle began spreading across the galaxy. The species that had been locked away in quarantine had revealed themselves as protectors rather than conquerors. The Terran Protectorate was born that day, the simple charter written in the blood of bullies and the gratitude of the innocent. Humanity had spoken to the stars. And the message was clear: no innocent species would face extinction alone while humans drew breath.